Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. We're back in the saddle talking NFL, folks. I mean, this thing, it's a machine. It just keeps on rolling. We're happy that it does because the new calendar is going to start in a week, Tyson. We're recording here on March 5th, so whenever you're listening to this, the new calendar is going to be starting. We got a ton of draft stuff coming out. We're going to do our winners and losers, risers, fallers from the combine later, so stay tuned for that. Of course, we're going to get ready for the March Madness tournament that's coming out here and some conference tournaments before then. But we're focused on the NFL, man. I know you love it. You're an NFL junkie just like me, so this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a sick obsession that we have cultivated over the years. But this is what happens. We have the early NFL stuff right now, the trickling in of some of these the bigger news is what we'll talk about today, or at least what we deemed some of the bigger news. And then, the new league year starts, free agents are signed, and then there's the draft, and it just doesn't sleep. The dead season is really going to be, May through August. And at that point, we'll be talking about something else. But this is the fun stuff.
Oh, for sure. This, if you're like a roster building, roster retention nut, and you like playing Madden, and you're like, I want to be the GM and build. This is a perfect time for you. And Tyson and I got our thoughts on this because we love this stuff. So let us know what you think of these moves. What was your favorite? All that good stuff in the comment, and let's get into it because our Philadelphia Eagles, coming off the Super Bowl, they made three notable moves here. First, they made Saquon Barkley the highest paid running back in the history of the NFL with his new extension. Tyson, that is a big one to me. Zach Bond also re-signed. I'm trying to pull up the note here on a 3-year, $51 million deal, $34 million guaranteed. Barkley is just to be official, 2-year extension worth $41.2 million with $36 million guaranteed, 15 more in incentives. And then lastly, the sad news here is that Darius Slay is being released, or is going to be released. And that also James Bradbury is going to be released as well. Slay's really more of the new of the headline deal. This is a cap saving type of deal. It allows them to re-sign Saquon Barkley or extend Saquon Barkley and re-sign Zach Bond.
Yeah, I think that Howie Roseman started the offseason off and told Eagles fans it was going to look weird, and people were like, well, what does that mean? It means he's going to pay a running back at the top of the market, the top of the market of all time, and he's going to pay an off-ball linebacker $17 million a season. Now, where Bond slots in, it's still below Roquan Smith, Fred Warner. Some of these guys he outperformed a year ago, so age kind of plays a factor as well as not having done it before. But this is a thank you both for helping us win the Super Bowl. It's also retaining and keeping your top stars happy, something Philadelphia and Howie Roseman do well. We can get more kind of into the minutia of those deals. But on the Darius Slay thing, it was expected. Slay was even saying before the NFC Championship game, he's like, this might be or is probably my last home game ever in Philadelphia. He came out earlier today and said if the money's right, he'd love to be back. I think that probably is going to be a Vic Fangio call more than anything else. If he feels like the young guys are ready to roll, if he feels like Keely Ringo is going to step into that cornerback 2 on the outside role for Philadelphia. So we'll see how it plays out. But that's one thing to keep in mind as we talk about some of these guys they could cut and as we move forward in the offseason. Some of these cap casualties are it's bookkeeping, and then they might very well be back with the team that cut them. So don't overreact too hard if your favorite guy is on the waiver wire.
Yeah, but the interesting thing too is we see a lot of times that you just the hard salary cap in the NFL, the guys got to change spots. I mean, it's it, and then you put on New Jersey. Like, it's pretty shocking. Like, this isn't baseball or the NBA. Everything's guaranteed, and okay, we can kind of figure it out. We got hard decisions to make. It's like, sorry, thanks for everything. And Slay's been great for the Eagles. And you're on the back end. These cornerbacks look good. We need Bond. We need Barkley. And that's kind of how they looked at things. And it is shocking if you're an Eagles fan to retain a linebacker and retain a running back when that's been something that hasn't been a crucial part of the Eagles' success. But I think last year, saw Tyson, they got lucky in 2017. I think we can all say it was a magical run that you flip the coin, and it landed on tails every single time. And that's what you were banking on. And it did that. This was just kicking the other team's ass. And that was because they had a linebacker who played at an elite level and a running back who had the best season in the history of the sport. So, yes, it's a thank you for what you've done, but it's also like, we need you guys to win. And so we're gonna spend money on you guys. So I think that's a huge thing here for the Eagles. We'll see what else they do with the rest of the cash that they have for the offseason.
Yeah, and if you look at Philadelphia right now, a lot of the money is on the offensive side of the ball. Let's see how things shake out as Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, maybe N'Kobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, as these guys contract extensions come. Because right now the narrative is it's always funny. Howie Roseman is a genius, and he's probably the best in the league at being a general manager. But people seem to forget these soft resets in 2020, 2018, 2015, some of these things that happen. They will have to pay the piper eventually, but they're gearing up to try to go back to back. That's the goal.
So Deebo Samuel was traded to the Commanders, Tyson. That was for a 5th-round pick. I mean, a lot of people are like, wow, what a steal that the Commanders got. People have to understand how players are viewed in the league when it comes to draft compensation. Like, again, this isn't the NBA where you need pretty much a top 5 pick to really make like a trade of a superstar worth it. Like, you can slot in things like a 5th-round pick, what that value is for the price of a player, what the age of a player is. Like, it's all pretty much calculated out now. And so it's really hard that you get like a huge steal. Like, I'll just say A.J. Brown with the Titans. Because, Tyson, let's be honest here. We all look back on that as like, wow, the Eagles fleeced the Titans, right? Because A.J. Brown's a champion with the Eagles. He's been so good with the Eagles. But if, let's just say the Titans were able to draft Justin Jefferson with that pick instead of Treylon Burks, we're looking at like, oh, okay, it worked out for both teams, right? Like, now, obviously they didn't, and it comes down to the right selection for the team. But those are the things that you got to think about when you're looking at this. So, do the Commanders get better with Deebo Samuel? I think yes. Do the San Francisco 49ers clear up cap? Ricky Pearsall looked like a guy. We'll see what Brandon Ayuk looks like when he comes back. But let's go get younger on that side of the ball. I can see it for both sides here. Like, what's your initial reaction to this?
Yeah, I thought the Deebo stuff it's been floated now for 5 years, basically. Is Deebo Samuel going to be a 49er when the season kicks off? And this was the first time the answer was no. I think it does make the Commanders better in the short term. We have to see him on the field because Deebo he's been electric. He's also looked washed at times, and he misses time and all of those things. But he's an excellent football player. I think he fits well in what Cliff Kingsbury wants to do, and he doesn't. He's not going to take the same area of the field as a Terry McLaurin and a Diami Brown and some of these other guys that they utilize. And so I'm excited to see the way that they trot him out there and try to give him the ball. And then on the flip side for the 49ers, they got to pay Brock Purdy, brother. You're trying to get as much of this stuff off the books because these quarterback contracts are getting insane. And so, yeah, I can't call anything a win-win or a lose-lose at this point in the offseason, but if you're a Commanders fan, you want a victory lap on this thing, go crazy. And if you're a 49ers fan and you want to say we didn't need him anyways, go crazy. That's the point.
Yeah, and I think both are right. Yeah. The Niners are like, well, what did he do last year? It wasn't a whole lot. And the Commanders are like, whoa, another weapon for our guy, Jaden Daniels. It's great. Like, you want that with Scary Terry because you're throwing a Diami Brown last year. I mean, Deebo Samuel's going to have a little bit more motivation, you think? He's probably going to come into better shape. He's probably going to be a better teammate because, Tyson, let's be honest here. If he was like an immaculate guy in the locker room last year, I don't think they would have been – he'd still be there. Things soured for Deebo. I don't know what it was, and I'm not gonna call him like a character issue guy or anything like that because I don't know him personally. We weren't in the locker room, but just stuff on the sidelines and everything that's come out the past few years.
Bro, the last image we have of Deebo Samuel as a 49er is him wearing an A.J. Brown jersey to the Super Bowl.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Tyson, let's stay in the same division here. How about the Seahawks news today? I mean, they cut Tyler Lockett, which, again, you got to make tough decisions. I don't know if this is directly related or just something that spun off of this or if it was in the works, but now DK Metcalf says that he wants to be traded. So a lot going on in Seattle. Let's start breaking it down.
So we're in the same division as the 49ers. These guys are on the same team. Brad, I'm going to float two teams in the same division that these guys end up with. What about a Tyler Lockett reunion with Pete Carroll in Las Vegas? And what if Justin Herbert finally gets his guy in DK Metcalf? Because DK Metcalf wants to be paid like a top 5 guy. I think we can all agree he's never produced that way, and he probably never will. But if you're LA, I know that the Packers and the Patriots are chomping at the bit, to explore this thing so hard and just come up short. So if you're looking for a team, I think LA is a spot for DK Metcalf here, and he wants his money, and I think he's going to get it from somebody, and it's not going to be Seattle. And then Tyler Lockett is the same thing, man. 10 years of service for a team, and I was doing a little bit more looking. I was like, man, he's been there for all this success. They only won 3 playoff games with Tyler Lockett on the roster, which blew my mind.
Wow, that you just blew my mind. I love both those call outs. Now, Tyler Lockett, I think the Vegas, they need this, and we talked about this. when Pete Carroll was hired. We like the hire. We think it's a good one. You need to turn that culture on more than anything. Like, let's focus on what we can control, and that's getting a coach in here who's going to change the way that people think about the Raiders and change the way that the internal side of things thinks about the Raiders, players included. And we'll get into a player that I think is going to be a big part of that. Tyler Lockett would do that, man. Like, he's a great teammate, and he knows the Pete Carroll thing. He can be a disciple of, what they're preaching, positivity, all this stuff. That's a great shout out. In terms of what it's on the field, maybe it's a little too like with Jacoby Myers, but does that matter for the Raiders? You know what I mean? Like, at this point, like, you're looking to build for the future. I kind of like that. I could see Tyler Lockett also, Tyson. How about the Niners cheap pickup in division? He replaced Deebo Samuel. He's not going to do the same thing, but he's a deep threat. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. The Metcalf thing to the Chargers is freaking sick. I mean, I'm just thinking about that right now. I love that. I mean, they wanted Tee Higgins, right? Like, everybody wants Tee Higgins. Again, we'll talk about him next here. Not available, at least it seems right now. DK Metcalf, if you can give up a third-round picks for DK Metcalf, you're the Chargers, do a couple pick swaps or whatever on the back end of things. Holy smokes, you got your guy number one. I love it.
Yeah, and this is where the people listening are going to go, DK Metcalf for a third, you're crazy. And it might be more than that, but this is not the Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, A.J. Brown offseason where things kind of went crazy with wide receivers because if you've noticed, the Miami Dolphins didn't have much success with Tyreek Hill on the roster. Davante Adams he's looking for a new team again. We'll talk about that. So teams are a little jaded. 27, he's going to want his bag, before he gets into his 30s. And he also mentioned he wants to go to a contender. Now, how much is Seattle going to honor that request? We'll see. But there were rumors like a year ago at this time that, hey, LA is really exploring this DK Metcalf thing, and they're being shut down every which way by the Seattle Seahawks. And I think now that it's open again, that's the team I'm looking at.
I'm going to throw two more out here in the AFC if they don't want to trade him to an NFC team. The Buffalo Bills need a true number one. I know they just re-signed Khalil Shakir, but we both don't think he's a number one. DK Metcalf on the outside would be sick with Josh Allen. Then how about the Ravens finally go get a guy? I mean, you're getting desperate here. You need a number one. Listen, you love Bateman. He had a little resurgent year. I eat my words a little bit, but I'm just not quite sure there. And I love Zay Flowers, but he's tiny, and I don't think he can carry your offensive output. And Mark Andrews, after that catch, I don't know if he's coming back from that, Tyson. So go get Metcalf and get Lamar Jackson, a real guy here.
If DK Metcalf is upset that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are getting the ball too much, I don't think he's going to love playing for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
He said he wants to win, though. Is that what do you want? What do you want, DK? Do you want to win or you want to be catching 300 balls? I don't know. Like, come on. And if you want to do both, maybe you go down there to Dallas because we know Jerry might think that's his win now move. Well, let's talk about Tee Higgins, tagged again by the Cincinnati Bengals, still looking for the long-term deal. Tyson, I saw this. I was not shocked. Let's be honest here. People are like, what? And they're just so pissed about the franchise tag. I do think the back-to-back years is kind of something that the Players Association should try to address, but that's another conversation for a different day. Here's what we know. Tee Higgins will be a Cincinnati Bengal next year unless he holds out. Now, is that going to be as a rework contract? This is a long-term deal they could do. They just said, hey, we're going to take care of this now, put the tag on him so we can still operate and work with them so nobody else really can. Or is this going to be the last season? I mean, those are the two options that we got here with Tee Higgins and Cincy.
Well, I think they can get him again next year. I think they can
go 3 in a row or only 2 in a row?
I think so.
I'll look it up real quick. Yeah.
Didn't Kirky Coupons collect franchise tags like they were going out of style?
Yeah. I thought something changed with that, but
at one point in his career. And I don't think that'll ever change because it only affects like the top 0.01% or top 1% of NFL players. So the PA, is just kind of, hey, this is what happens. I think that Tee Higgins is going to stay a Bengal. This is the same talking points we had a year ago. Cincinnati doesn't make trades, folks. They made like 2 in the history of the organization, it feels like. And I don't think that Tee Higgins is walking out the door. But again, these kind of things beg the question of with a guy like Tee Higgins, the same thing I would feel if the Dolphins did it to Jalen Waddle or a different kind of receiver like that, where do you play through the nagging injuries? And T had an excellent end to the season after coming back from missing time, but you're between the rock and the hard place if you're Cincinnati, because if you lose him, then you risk pissing off Joe Burrow, and that's the guy, and you don't want that to happen. But if you retain him, you have so much money tied up now between him and Jamar Chase, and just in the receiving room there that kind of hamstring some other options that you can have and do. So I think Tee Higgins is going to stay a Bengal. I also think Tee Higgins is an awesome football player, and there's tons of teams that are going to try to pry him away. It's just that the Browns being the ownership group, don't make trades.
Yeah, and so you are right. So 3 in a row. I thought that changed for some reason. So that is interesting. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but yada yada. Either way, you can be tagged 3 times in a row. So Higgins theoretically could again. Now he could also not sign the franchise tag. I forgot about that. So that's something Le'Veon Bell's done. That Josh Jacobs famously did that, and then Davante Adams did. So that could be an option here too. Tee Higgins has kind of threatened that in the past, Tyson, before eventually signing. So we'll see how it operates this time around.
Super weird because like we talk about it and it's like, well, they want the security of a long-term contract, but then you add up the guarantees of the 2 franchise tags and you go, oh, he just made more guaranteed money than Brandon Ayuk did on his long-term deal. And he still has the potential to get one a year from now.
Yeah, and I think that's the argument that people kind of forget with the franchise tag. It's like, yeah, you don't have the long-term security in place. We know the NFL is a cutthroat business. Like if Tee Higgins goes out and gets hurt, yeah, that sucks because he could never get like that huge mega deal. But he's also getting paid like 120% over the value for the top 5 receiver. Like, so he's getting handsomely paid. Like, it's not like, oh, poor Tee Higgins. Like, the dude's making bank this year. It's just like, oh, it's another prove it deal. And those are scary in the NFL, especially for a guy with injuries like this. Now, before we move on, this was not surprising to me at all from the Bengals standpoint. Like, why would you freaking rush anything? Like you're a franchise who doesn't like handing out long-term money anyway. Joe Burrow says, okay, we can restructure my contract and we'll figure things out. Okay, slap the tag on him. Let's figure this thing out. Like that's all you got to do. So nobody else is going to be going after him. I mean, it makes complete sense in the world to me. I was surprised that people were a little bit surprised by it themselves. Do I think anything gets worked out long-term? No. With that said, Tyson, I think the Bengals should trade him. I mean, get something back. You got to get assets. You got to eventually build up that offensive line at some point. So I think this is the hottest commodity he's going to be. Trade him, get stuff back, and let's go.
And we'll see, like Sam Hubbard coming off the books with his retirement, like how that kind of impacts the way that they choose to go about this. But if we know one thing about the Cincinnati Bengals is if there's a right decision and a wrong decision, which way do you think they're going to go?
Well, probably the wrong one based on their history. Davante Adams, Tyson. Speaking of the devil, he was released by the New York Jets, just a complete dumpster fire coming out of New York. Rodgers isn't coming back. They went all changes and we're all in and then they go get Davante Adams and just a complete desperate attempt to do whatever the New York Jets try to do and it didn't work and they cut him. So not surprising. Davante Adams on the market again. Tyson, it's kind of to the point here where doesn't Davante Adams feel like Kevin Durant? Like
yeah, but like it feels like Kevin Durant. First of all, it's impossible to even make the cross sport comparison. But at least with Davante Adams, it's like he just keeps trying to play with his friends, and something messes it up every time. Like if you're friends with this dude, do not have him come to your football team.
It was super strange. I mean, listen, when the Jets hired Aaron Glenn, the nonsense that's been going on. Somebody's got to just duct tape frickin' the Johnsons to a table or to their desk in their nice fancy mansions and tell them don't come to the building. Like let Aaron Glenn and this new regime actually do football stuff. Let the grown-ups actually know what the hell they're doing. Take charge of this thing. I think moving on from Rodgers, moving on from Adams is the first step. Like clean slate. Like good Lord. Looking forward, Tyson, somebody's going to get Davante Adams for a pretty good deal here. Now, I'm curious which teams are interested. Like you said, I don't know. There kind of feels like there's a little bit of stink around. You think so?
Come on, brother. Like, we're getting all this stuff. We need Josh Jacobs is saying we need a true wide receiver 1. And you can say what you want about Davante Adams. On the field last year, he was still really good. In Green Bay, they need somebody that can beat man. They don't have that with Watson, with Reed, with Wicks, with Dobbs. This is what Davante Adams excels at. He's probably still got the house. I mean, now he's got $400 million more than he had the last time he was there. I am circling that as the spot for Davante Adams, and I'm happy to be wrong, but that's where my mind is telling me he's gone.
Wow. Davante Adams back to the Packers. That is interesting. Now, I'm curious at the LaFleur's thing involvement in this. Man, I think it was kind of like everybody exhaled when Rodgers was out of the building. Like, whew, all right, like we got him out type of deal. Not saying he's a bad guy or anything, but, it's just a lot to deal with Aaron Rodgers. The Davante Adams thing, Tyson, do you want to welcome in somebody from the old regime back? Like we know it can get a little prickly with Davante when things aren't going his way. Now I think they're going to have more success in Green Bay, clearly, than they've had in Las Vegas. But that was also his own doing, Tyson. So, it's just like, what are we doing here?
He takes a minimum to play for the Saints, and they're minus $50 million cap space. He wants to be with Carr.
Maybe that's something. I keep throwing this team out there. Bills, I think you got to get aggressive.
Patriots would be nice, but Davante Adams wants to win a Super Bowl.
Right, and that's the thing. And now he's got the decision, right? Like he's like, okay, now I can sign with anybody. Let me actually make up my mind here. And I do think Patriots would be good. Maybe they give him the bag. Tyson, he's got money. Like he's not getting any older, or he's not getting any younger, excuse me. So I agree with you. I think Patriots sounds good in theory. I don't know if it's going to happen. Then I kind of look at, okay, do the Texans try to make a play for him? They did that with Diggs with the trade last year. Didn't quite work out, but the injuries, there's no Tank Dell. Like you bring Adams in, he's a big body guy. Does that work for him down there? That's something I want to keep in mind. And then, if you want to talk about another contendership, Tyson, what about the Chiefs? They brought in the DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to get Rashee Rice back. Xavier Worthy looks like the dude, but holy smokes, you want to talk about adding Davante Adams to that? That'd be insane.
And we'll see where the Chiefs are actually a really interesting team to monitor throughout this whole offseason. We'll talk about moving on from, Joe Thuney later in the show here, but they're going to restructure Mahomes again. They're going to restructure Chris Jones. There's going to be $20 million found, and we'll see what happens with Trey Smith. And they might end up being a player. They might end up with no money if they keep the guys that they have in-house. But if they do have a couple bucks to spend, they just got belt to ass in the Super Bowl. They're going to want to get back, and they want to win.
Keep an eye on the Jags and the Dolphins because you can never have too many receivers when you're those organizations.
If he wants money again, he's going to be a Tennessee Titan.
That's a good point. I like that. Okay, let's go to his old team. The Las Vegas Raiders handed Maxx Crosby a bag, Tyson. I don't know if this is necessarily a huge surprise, but a 3-year extension worth $106.5 million, $91.5 million guaranteed. Crosby is now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history on a per-year salary basis. Listen, is it smart if you're the Raiders? Probably not. You got so many holes elsewhere that you need to give money. This guy has been the face of the Raiders. He is a soldier. He showed up to work. Yes, he's been a little frustrated, a little disgruntled. Who wouldn't when you're dealing with that nonsense over there? Reward the guy for staying. Hey, Max, thanks for everything you've done. Let's be the beacon of this new organization coming in. Why don't you plant your flag as the guy who turned things around for the Las Vegas Raiders? We're going to give you a lot of money to do it. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it was always so funny with the Crosby trade rumors, and I've said it on the show, and I'll say it again. The guy with the giant back piece tattoo of the Raiders logo and the stadium and everything, that's the guy that's demanding to get out. I don't think so. His name's not Minimum Crosby, Brad. It's Max, and that's exactly what he just got. And if you listen really closely, you can hear Micah Parsons salivating at what he's going to get, because this is not to turn this into an anti-Jerry thing, but you waited too long again. And now you got another guy that's going to reset the market here. So the tale as old as time, NFL players becoming the highest paid at their position before free agency starts.
Mm-hmm.
You get the record for a week and a half.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Also, the Raiders signed guard Alex Kappa, 2 years, $11 million, and safety Isaiah Polamau, 2-year extension worth up to $8.45 million. So new regime taking things over in the Raiders. I like it. I like the Kappa move for them as well. And let's close here because I thought this was something we were going to lead with. All these other moves came. How about the Chicago Bears and your boy Ryan Poles making some moves, baby? Everybody's been waiting for it. Oh, when are the Bears going to do this? Tyson's getting a little impatient. Ryan, I just want to say I've always been on your side, brother. It's been all me here. They trade for Jonah. They trade for Jonah Jackson with the Los Angeles Rams. They send out a 6th-round pick in the 2025 draft to get it done. Sounded pretty good. Oh, and how about we go ahead and trade for all-pro guard Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs, only giving up a 2026 4th-round pick. That's going to be official on March 12th. Past physicals, all that good stuff. But 2 new offensive linemen for one of the worst offensive lines I've seen. Got to build from the trenches. Bears are trying to do it.
Yeah, and if you pay for if you pay for PFF, and you see that the Bears had the 8th ranked offensive line in the NFL last year, just delete your subscription. You don't need to be paying for that. Watch the games because these guys sucked. Jonah Jackson, I think, is huge. It's also like a little under the radar move. Like he knows Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson knows him. They get him in the door. Like I know he was with the Rams, but he's been in Detroit, and I think that's huge. And then with Tooney, I think there's a sour taste in people's mouths because the poor guy got kicked out to tackle for the playoff run there for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he got whooped. But he's out of position. That's not where he plays. The Bears have $100 billion to throw at some of these free agents, so let's address our biggest needs. Ryan Poles has been preaching offensive line. All, like Darnell Wright in the draft a couple years ago. Like some of these things, it's a slow build and a slow burn, but when you get a professional in the room, it can raise the level of everybody else. And I think that if you're trying to set a culture, let's go get a guy that just was maybe at the best one in the league.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, these are two huge moves for the Bears, and like we got to see how they play on the field, of course. But Tyson, like in theory, when like we're sitting back and like, okay, what do the Bears need this offseason? You got to address the offensive line. You got to protect your franchise quarterback. To get Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney for the draft compensation of a 2025 6th and a 2026 4th. And again, that's that. I'm not saying that's a steal. Like those are fair, I think fair market. I mean, to be completely honest with you, that's what offensive linemen go for. You got to love that for the Bears, man. Like they can't keep taking flyers on offensive linemen. And I think they recognize, let's go get established dudes, maybe even if it's for the next couple of years, have some stuff in place, and then our guys can develop. So I think this is a great move.
Yeah, and again, they still have the flexibility to do pretty much whatever they want once free agency does open.
All right. Well, Tyson, that's it for the early offseason moves that have come down the pipeline here. Again, we're recording on Wednesday, March 5th. We got a bunch of other stuff that's going to come. Once free agency officially kicks off, we'll keep cycling some stuff in here. But that's going to do it for us here. Like, subscribe, and share the show. You know the deal. Follow us on our socials if you want. Smash that like button on the way out. We got combine stuff. Come on. We got to give our risers. We got to give our followers. We're getting right into the NFL draft stuff. But don't worry. We got basketball coverage as well. That's why you got to stay subscribed so you don't miss a single thing we do. We'll talk to you all soon. Peace.